Hip hop is losing monopoly, hip hop is losing its power, and hip hop is, most importantly of all, losing listeners. And now we got country artists like Morgan Wallen who's surpassing hip hop artists. I mean, a lot of people are just getting bored of the music that's getting pushed in hip hop. Now, rap music is really struggling right now. What's going on with you today? Hope you're having a good day. Want to have a little conversation about this recent report that was dropped by Billboard on rap music's decline on the Billboard charts. So if you don't know exactly what's going on, well, let me inform you. A few days ago, it was revealed by Billboard that it's been over 1 year since a rap record charted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, I saw this, right? And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't really believe what I was seeing. Because for some odd reason, I don't know why, but I thought that we had multiple rap records that charted at #1, during this year. But it turns out that that wasn't the case, right? And I thought that was the case because we had multiple rap records that came really close to being #1. Now, the last time this happened was when Nicki Minaj dropped Super Freaky Girl back in August of last year. The record ended up debuting at #1, and ever since then, there hasn't been a single rapper that's beat that. So I want to go over this article from Billboard, give you my, commentary in between, and just have a really solid conversation about this because you already know nobody breaks this shit down like me. That's why you're here. So let's talk about it. So here's the article. It was written by a Trevor Anderson, and it starts off by saying, no rap song has led the Hot 100 for a year. What's behind the break and when might it end? A year ago this week, Nicki Minaj's Super Freaky Girl held the top spot. For the first time in 23 years, a peculiar moment occurs on the Billboard Hot 100, where an entire year has gone by without a rap track reaching #1. The weekly recap, which ranks the most popular songs in the US, hits the benchmark on the list dated August 26, 2023, as Oliver Anthony's music Richmond North of Richmond seals the deal. The article continues and says, the last rap track defined as songs that have hit or are eligible to appear on Billboard's Hot Rap Songs chart to top the listing was Nicki Minaj's Super Freaky Girl, which debuted atop the Hot 100 on August 27, 2022, and held the rank for that 1 week. In the 12 months since, 3 rap titles have came close to the summit, each peaking at #2, Drake and 21 Savage, Rich Flex, November 19, 2022, Drake Search and Rescue, April 22nd, 2023, and Lil Durk's On My Life featuring J. Cole, May 27, 2023. So like the article states, there's been a couple rap records that came really close to getting the #1 spot, but they didn't quite get there. So Drake is responsible for reaching that #2 spot on 2 separate occasions. First, we have Rich Flex with 21 Savage, 21. Can you do something for me? And then we have Search and Rescue. I need someone to be patient with me. So when Rich Flex reached that #2 spot, the record above it was Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift, who when she dropped her album literally occupied the entire Billboard top 10. I can't believe she managed to do that, but she did, and Anti-Hero was #1 for 8 weeks straight. Now, the second time Drake charted at #2, which was when he dropped Search and Rescue, the record above that was #1 was a song called Last Night by an artist who goes by the name of Morgan Wallen. Now, Morgan Wallen he's a unit. Like, he's going crazy. He's one of the biggest stars of music. He's a country artist, right? And he does ridiculous numbers. And then the third record that managed to come close was by Lil Durk, All My Life featuring J. Cole. And same thing there, Morgan Wallen was occupying the #1 spot with Last Night. Now I say all this to say, and I'm sure you can see the pattern, but what happened 3 times in a row when hip hop came close to being #1 on the charts? Well, it ended up getting beat by other genres. So rap music and hip hop right now doesn't have monopoly on the charts. Far from, actually, and this wasn't the case literally last year. And we know this because the amount of rap records that have gone #1 just in the last couple years on the charts, insane. That number is out of this world. Like, hip hop has been dominating the charts like nothing for the last couple years. And now, just a few years later, hip hop is a step below all these other genres, and they're dominating the charts over hip hop. And now we got country artists like Morgan Wallen who's surpassing hip hop artists. We also got pop stars like Taylor Swift or Olivia Rodrigo, who are both surpassing hip hop artists right now. And we also got Afrobeats artists, and this is a big one. Afrobeats is popping like crazy. It's gonna keep on growing, by the way. One of the best genres out there right now, in my opinion. But we got Afrobeats artists like Rema, right? Who's also surpassing hip-hop artists. So hip-hop is slowly but surely losing that power and monopoly that it once had on the charts. And for this one, yes, we're gonna judge everything by the charts because the music that rises to the surface is what's representing rap music and the culture. If we're at a place where less and less authentic hip-hop is actually reaching the surface, well, what does that tell you about the direction the genre is headed in? We're losing that power day by day. The masses simply aren't as interested in rap music as they are in other genres now. If this trend becomes the new normal, what's going to happen? Well, there's going to be less and less funds that get allocated towards hip-hop and rap music by the record labels and corporations. The only reason why rappers have been prioritized in so many spaces in the first place is because that's where the money has been for the last couple years. And it's not that boom, overnight, everything is suddenly going to change. It's just that the landscape of the music business is shifting from being in favor of rap to being in favor of other genres. This shift is only taking place because hip-hop stocks is not only going down, but the perceived value that's being placed upon hip-hop and rap music is declining right in front of our eyes. So the consumers are paying less and less attention to hip-hop. They're giving their attention to these other genres. And why is that? Well, let's just say that the essence of hip-hop ain't really there anymore. And you know what? I'm actually not going to say that that's why rap songs haven't been charting like that, because mainstream hip-hop and mainstream music period has always lacked essence to some extent. It is called the mainstream for a reason. The masses are the asses, and what usually connects with the masses isn't as pure as what connects with a smaller, more niche group of people. So continuing with the article. Before the 2022-2023 break, the last time the Hot 100 went without a rap champ for at least a year was pre and post Y2K. Following the soundtrack single 1 Week Rule, rap was absent from the Hot 100 summit until Shaggy's It Was a Me featuring Ricardo began a 2-week command in February 2001, a span of 22 number ones in just over 18 months. The return quickly brought another champ as Outkast Miss Jackson ousted It Was a Me for the former's Hot 100 coronation. It then continues by saying, rap's current absence from the Hot 100's top slot largely traces to the dominance of several hits in the past 12 months that shut out almost all challengers from all genres. Since Super Freaky Girl, 14 songs have reached the Hot 100 summit. 6 were multi-week number ones driven initially by large streaming premieres, followed by sustained streams and rapid airplay gains. So just skip into this segment right here. Before we pound the alarm though, the R&B/hip-hop sector remains the largest consumed genre of music in the US, according to Luminate, whose data on streaming, sales, and radio informs the Hot 100. In the firm's 2023 mid-year report, R&B and hip-hop accounted for 25% of all consumption in the US during the first half of the year, and of course rap music being good for at least one, if not multiple number ones each year across the last 2 decades speaks to its reliability as a hit-making force. After all, we were in a similar spot earlier this summer with the Billboard 200, lamenting the lack of a number 1 rap album on the charts, and then its quick succession, Lil Uzi Vert's Pink Tape and Travis Scott's Utopia reset the clock there. Now, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So this part is very interesting because we've been talking a lot about how hip-hop is losing monopoly. And the thing is, hip-hop is still, at least according to this report I'm going to show you right now, the genre with the most amount of consumption. Right under hip-hop is rock, and then we have pop, and then we have country, Latin music, dance electronic, and so forth. Now, despite this being the case, hip-hop has actually seen a 2% drop in consumption in comparison to last year. Now, 2% might not seem like a lot, but since we're talking about billions in music consumption, 2% out of 1 billion equals to 20 million. So it might seem like a drop in a bucket, but it's actually a very substantial number we're talking about. Now the question is, why is this happening? Well, I think the core of it is the fact that hip hop is just losing monopoly and that there are so many other genres that are growing faster than hip hop. So Latin music, for example, might not be competing with hip hop right now, but it's actually growing faster than hip hop. Same with Afrobeats, it's growing extremely fast, it's catching a lot of people's attention, and I bet if they did some kind of study on how many people are switching from one genre to another, they would probably discover that a lot of people who are listening to these other genres probably had hip hop in constant rotation at some point in time. Let's say that was the case. What does this mean? Well, it simply means that hip hop is losing listeners to other genres. This is something I think is it's going to continue, and I don't think it's going to be less and less people listening to other genres and more people coming back to hip hop. So this time around next year, I think it's going to be even worse, because current events form future trends, and when the behavior of the masses is starting to affect the actual numbers, that's a sign of a bigger and more immense shift taking place in the market that's going to continue to have a detrimental effect on the growth of hip hop as a genre. So what exactly does what I'm talking about exactly mean? So we've clarified that hip hop is losing a great quantity of listeners to other genres, but why exactly is this the case? Well, from a grand scheme perspective, I think it just has to do with the fact that the quality of the music has gone down severely in such a short amount of time. The average and passive consumer of rap music has an extremely hard time discovering quality hip hop albums, because the music that's actually arisen to the mainstream is far from a great representation of the quality that exists below the surface. So there's a greater number of layers in between the consumer discovering the real gems the genre has to offer. And so this is directly affected the value that's being placed on the music from the consumer's perspective. Why should I fight tooth and nail just to find something that's worth my attention, when I could listen to the top 10 most trending records in any other genre like Afrobeats or country and get a higher quality of music without investing too much time in finding said quality? Because the thing is, the consumer is always going to operate from a selfish point of view. If they're not getting their needs met with what they deem as worth their attention as far as the music they're listening to, they will take their attention elsewhere and then take their money along with them. Once you opt out of something, usually that's the end of it. And so the quantity, as far as the numbers being cut from the consumption of hip hop being so substantial, has created a domino effect of consumers in general following suit with this trend. And this is obviously not something that's happening out of nowhere. The perceived value of hip hop being less than in the eyes of the consumer is a direct result of the music lacking in quality, diversity, and uniqueness. And while the mainstream representation of the artists, rappers, and albums that are at the forefront of the culture is creating an aura around hip-hop, that's not all that beneficial for the genre's reputation. Other genres are not only growing faster than hip-hop in terms of the quantity of its listeners, the concentration of quality music is also growing for those other genres. Now that leaves hip-hop in a predicament that's directly fueled by other competing genres who are growing their dominance, while hip-hop is losing monopoly and losing a lot of the influence it once had. So if hip-hop doesn't get its act together 2 years from now, 5 years from now, or a decade from now, not only is the loss of the influence the genre lost gonna be so hard to recoup, but if this trend follows, it's gonna be very hard for hip-hop to actually stay on the pedestal it's been on for such a long time. Now just some additional thoughts on what we spoke about, right? I don't think that hip-hop is on its way out, because I think hip-hop has built too strong of a hold in pop culture for it to not be relevant on a large scale. However, hip-hop is losing monopoly, hip-hop is losing its power, and hip-hop is, most importantly of all, losing listeners. And we gotta face the music, you know, there's no way around it. A lot of people are gonna look at this and be like, oh no, hip-hop is still hip-hop is thriving. We're not saying that hip-hop is not thriving. But we are saying that hip-hop is not thriving as much as it was thriving last year or the year before that. If the mainstream is saying these other genres, they're more interesting to us than hip-hop, well, that is after all a reflection of the state the culture is in. I mean, a lot of people are just getting bored of the music that's getting pushed in hip-hop. We don't have enough standalone stars being developed. We don't have enough quality hits being produced. The quality is severely lacking, and so the consumer is deciding to opt out of hip-hop. What a shift. What a change. I mean, we're clearly in different times in hip-hop right now. And not to sound negative, by the way, but I don't think there's any way to reverse this change that we're going through. No way. I don't think there is. Because for that to happen, the genre has to go through a considerable alteration in terms of the music that's getting produced in the genre. And on a large scale, I just don't think that's going to happen. Current events form future trends. And so if we're on this path right now and the numbers are telling us that people are turning their attention elsewhere towards other genres, well, that means that hip hop is losing its power. That's what that means. And for things to start changing towards the betterment of hip hop, that means that the source, okay, the genre has to transform from the inside out. And how likely is it that that's going to happen on a large scale? Well, not so likely, because we're at this particular point right now, and it's this particular shift that's led to hip-hop struggling severely. My name is BlackySpeakz. I appreciate you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you subscribe. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Curious to hear what you have to say about this topic. What do you think about this topic? Do you think that rap music is struggling? Do you think that it's not struggling? Do you agree with some of the things that I said? What do you think about this article that we went over? Curious to hear what you have to say. You let me know, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.